My name's Jalen. I'm 31, live in a quiet little suburb just outside Chicago. And for most of my adult life, I've been the go-to guy in my family. The fixer, the planner, the one who could always be counted on to handle things. If someone needed help paying for car repairs, a new phone, even a security deposit, I'd get a text. Not a call, a text. Always with that same fake sweetness. You're the best, Jalen. We knew we could count on you. And like a fool, I always stepped up. I'm not married. No kids. Steady job in digital marketing. Low-key life. I figured if I wasn't going to be the one filling the house with grandkids or getting celebrated every year for anniversaries or birthdays, I could at least be useful. That was my role, the useful one. My younger sister Mia, golden child, family favorite, resident social media darling, had recently announced she was expecting her first child. A girl. The first girl in the family since, well, Mia. My parents reacted like she was carrying the second coming. You'd think she invented pregnancy. My mom immediately started sewing little pink blankets. My dad offered to build a custom crib. Meanwhile, I offered to cover the baby shower costs. Not because they asked. They didn't. It was more of an unspoken expectation. And I didn't mind. Really, I wanted to help. I designed the entire backdrop, paid for a 5-tier cake with sugar flowers and custom gold lettering. Even ordered those Instagrammable balloon arches. The invoice. $5,927 and some change. I didn't blink. But then, radio silence. I kept waiting for the official invite. I figured maybe they were doing something special. A surprise theme, a fancy venue. Mia always wanted things to look perfect on Instagram, and she had a way of overplanning everything. So I waited. 1 week out, nothing. 4 days out, still nothing. The night before the event, I texted my mom. Hey, what time's the shower tomorrow? She didn't answer. Thought maybe she was swamped with setup. Okay, fine. And then I opened Instagram. There it was. The baby shower in full bloom. The pink and gold palette I'd personally picked. My backdrop, the one I commissioned from a graphic designer in Toronto, sitting behind a massive throne chair with Mia, posing like she was royalty. My cake, front and center, except the gold lettering that was supposed to say, "From Annie Jalen with love," had been scraped off. Literally scraped. There were smudges where the name had been, but I could still make out the faint outline of the lettering I'd chosen. Every detail I'd paid for was there. Except me. I stared at the photos for a long time. Mia posted stories laughing with her friends, holding gifts, opening tiny baby shoes with a glowing smile. My parents were tagged in the group shots, looking proud and tearful. One post was captioned, "She deserves the world for carrying our little angel." There was even a video of my dad giving a speech, calling the baby our family's miracle and saying how everyone who mattered was in that room to celebrate. Everyone who mattered. I called my dad. Not angrily, just stunned. He picked up after a few rings. "Hey, what's up?" I said. "I saw the shower. Looked nice." There was this long silence, and then it was last minute. "You were probably busy." "Busy with what?" I asked. "I paid for everything." He sighed. Not in a guilty way. More in a "you're being difficult" kind of way. "Jalen, it wasn't about you. It was about your sister. Her first girl is a big deal. She needed space for her friends, her moment. You being there, it just would have shifted the attention." Shifted the attention? Like I was some fame-hungry spotlight thief. I couldn't even find the words for a moment. I was so numb I almost laughed. But instead, I just said, "Got it," and hung up. I didn't argue. I didn't beg for an explanation. I didn't text my mom. I didn't leave a passive-aggressive comment on Mia's post. I didn't even post a story. What I did do was pull out my laptop. My name was on the joint family credit card, the one my parents use for their Costco runs, gas, and groceries. I froze it. Then I logged into our shared utility account, the one I'd been covering for the last year because money's been tight ever since Dad semi-retired. I removed my payment method. After that, I opened up the lease for the rental house I'd helped them get when they downsized last year. I was the co-signer. My credit had landed them the approval. I initiated the paperwork to remove myself. The next morning, I was sipping coffee at my place when I got a string of notifications from the bank. 3 declined charges, one at a grocery store, one at a pharmacy, and one for their internet provider. Then my phone buzzed again, this time with a voicemail from Mia. She was sobbing. "Jalen, I don't know what's going on. The power's out. Mom and Dad are freaking out. My card got declined, and I have no cash." I'm pregnant. I have a baby coming. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please, just call me. Then came the texts. Dozens of them. From mom. From dad. From Mia. All different flavors of guilt, confusion, anger, gaslighting, apology, desperation. We didn't mean to exclude you. You're overreacting. It wasn't personal. Your sister's hormones are out of control. Let's just talk. Please fix this before the landlord finds out. And the cherry on top? A group chat message from dad that read, "You made your point. Now be an adult and fix this." I didn't reply. Not right away. Because here's the thing. I had been the adult. For years. I'd picked up the slack, filled the financial holes, turned the other cheek, and let them walk all over my boundaries with a smile. And now, when they couldn't even invite me to a shower I paid for, then tried to pretend it was no big deal, suddenly I was the one being unreasonable? So I waited. I waited a full day before replying. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, though I admit, part of me wanted them to squirm a little, but because I needed to be sure I wasn't reacting from pure anger. I wanted clarity. I wanted my words to cut through the noise, not get lost in it. When I finally opened the group chat, I typed slowly, deliberately. "Hi." I saw the posts. I saw the cake, the backdrop, the decorations I paid for. What I didn't see was an invite, or even a heads up. You didn't forget. You made a choice. So I made mine. Please do not contact me again unless you need my signature for something being taken off my name. I'm not your sponsor. I'm not your safety net. I'm not your fool. Take care. Then I left the group. Seconds later, my phone buzzed again, a call from mom. I let it ring. Then Mia. I let that ring too. Then dad. That one went straight to voicemail. He tried twice more. Then came the texts. At first, they begged. "You're being cruel. This isn't like you. Your sister's pregnant. She's stressed. We'll pay you back. We just need time. Don't do this to your family." Then the tone shifted. "You're selfish. Ungrateful. You think money makes you better than everyone else. Fine. Don't come crawling back when you're old and alone." I should have expected that last one. It was Dad's favorite line whenever he got pushed into a corner. The irony was, I wasn't alone. I had close friends, colleagues who respected me. Even my upstairs neighbor, who left homemade banana bread at my door after seeing me sit in silence on the steps that night. I had people. I just didn't have them. 2 days later, the landlord from my parents' rental property called me. I hadn't spoken to him since co-signing. He said, "Hey Jalen, not sure if you're aware, but the utilities have been shut off and your folks aren't responding. They missed this month's rent, and since you're on the lease." I interrupted him. "I'm aware, but I'm already in the process of removing my name." There was a pause. "Are they okay? I mean, your sister, she's pregnant, right?" I exhaled. "Yeah, that part's not my problem anymore." That weekend, I took a drive. Just a couple hours outside the city. I stayed at a quiet lakefront cabin and spent the time reading, hiking, and letting the silence settle in. No calls. No emails. Just time to remember who I was outside of being their provider. It's amazing how much noise you live with when you've been told your value is measured by what you give. When I got back home, my mailbox was stuffed. Most of it was junk, but one letter caught my eye, handwritten, slanted cursive on a cream envelope. It was from Mia. Inside was a 3-page letter. No greeting. No "Dear Jalen." Just a slow unraveling of guilt, pride, confusion, and, in her own way, an attempt at honesty. She admitted they hadn't forgotten. That mom was worried I'd dominate the conversation. That dad thought my presence would distract from her big moment. She said she tried to speak up, but they brushed her off. Then she admitted something I didn't expect. She said she'd asked mom to remove my name from the backdrop, that she didn't want the focus on who paid for it. That hit harder than anything else. Not because I needed credit, but because even the gesture of my support had made her uncomfortable. Like my love came with strings. She ended the letter by saying, "I don't know how to fix this, but I wanted you to hear it from me, not them. I'm sorry. I just didn't think." And now everything's unraveling. She was right about one thing. Everything was unraveling. Not just the financial fallout, or the power outages, or the calls from landlords. It was their illusion. The illusion that I'd always be there. That I'd always say yes. That no matter how many little cuts they gave me, I'd show up, wallet in hand, with a smile. I didn't reply. Not right away. Instead, I pulled out a folder from the back of my filing cabinet, one I hadn't touched in over a year. Inside were copies of all the joint accounts, the the lease paperwork, the health insurance add-ons, the old automatic payments. I spent the next 2 hours closing, transferring, and removing every trace of my name from their ecosystem. Gas bill? Removed. Internet? Closed. Credit card? Canceled. Lease? Finalized for removal. Streaming services? Passwords changed. And when everything was done, I sent one last message. Just 3 words. It's all yours. No context. No anger. Just a clean handoff. I knew what would come next. The scramble. The anger. The attempts to pull me back in with guilt, obligation, or even shame. But this time, I was done playing the role they'd written for me. And as for what happened when they realized they had to carry the weight alone, that part, that's where the real fallout began. 3 days passed. Then came the knock on my apartment door. I wasn't expecting anyone, and definitely not expecting her. Mia stood there, no makeup, hoodie pulled over her head, mascara smudged around her eyes like she hadn't slept in days. One hand was gripping her belly protectively, the other holding a Starbucks cup that was probably cold by now. She looked smaller, deflated. Not physically, emotionally. She used to glide into rooms like she was walking a runway. Now, she looked like someone who'd forgotten how to walk with purpose. I didn't say anything. I just stepped aside. She walked in like she'd done 100 times before, except this time, her shoulders were hunched and she didn't look around like she owned the space. She sat down on the edge of my couch, holding the cup with both hands like it was some kind of peace offering. I didn't know where else to go. I nodded, still silent. I let the weight of that sentence hang. She glanced around, trying to read my face, then sighed. It's all falling apart. I sat across from her, elbows on my knees. You said that in your letter. She blinked, surprised I'd read it. Did it help? No, I said honestly. But I appreciate the effort. Mia looked down, chewing her lip. Dad's furious. Mom's been crying nonstop. The landlord said if rent isn't paid in full by Friday, we're out. The fridge is empty. The Wi-Fi's off. Mom's trying to call in favors, but no one wants to touch it. They're all asking what happened to the golden goose. I raised my eyebrows. Golden goose. That's what Dad called you last night, she said quietly. He said, well, the golden goose finally flew away. I leaned back. At least he finally admitted what I was to him. She closed her eyes. I never saw it like that. I swear I didn't. I thought you wanted to do all that stuff. You never complained. I let that sit for a second. Do you thank your lungs for breathing? She frowned. What? That's what it felt like, I said. Like I wasn't a person, just a function, a utility. Nobody thanks the faucet when water comes out. But the second it stops, suddenly it's all anyone talks about. Her lip trembled. She looked down again. I was wrong. About the shower. About all of it. I didn't rush to comfort her. I didn't tell her it was okay. Because it wasn't. It wasn't just one thing. It was years of small, selfish choices from everyone in that house. Years of rewriting history so that I was always just there, but never seen. She looked up at me. I don't want anything. Not money. Not groceries. Not help with the rent. I don't want you to hate me. I swallowed hard at that. Because truthfully, I didn't hate her. I hated the version of her they created, the one who believed attention was currency and love came from loyalty, without conditions. But sitting across from me now, she looked like someone trying to tear through that version, desperate to become something else. I stood up, walked to the kitchen, and grabbed her a glass of water. When I came back, I handed it to her and sat beside her this time, not across from her. I don't hate you, I said. But I'm not coming back, Mia. Not the way I was before. That door is closed. She nodded slowly, eyes wet. I know. We sat there for a while. No fixing. No forgiveness. Just understanding. Or maybe the beginning of it. Then she stood up. Okay, she whispered. Thank you for letting me say it. I walked her to the door. She paused before leaving and turned back, her voice small. If the baby's a girl, and she asks me what happened between us one day, what should I tell her? I looked her in the eyes. Tell her I stopped mistaking love for obligation. And that sometimes, the kindest thing you can do is stop letting people treat you like a resource. She nodded, and then she left. But that wasn't the end. Not even close. Because when my parents found out she came to see me, without their permission, the backlash exploded into something I wasn't even prepared for. They didn't just get angry. They got strategic. And that's when I realized they weren't going to let me go quietly. The storm started that evening. A string of voicemails, texts, even a few old-school emails. My parents had never been good with subtlety. They preferred volume over nuance, and this time was no different. The messages came fast, each one louder and more accusatory than the last. How dare you go behind our backs and manipulate your sister? She's pregnant, Jalen. She doesn't need your guilt games right now. You had no right to involve her. You've already done enough damage. It was surreal. I hadn't done anything. Mia showed up on her own, spoke her own words, made her own decisions. But to them, I was still the villain, the ungrateful son who disrupted the carefully balanced pyramid they'd built. The one where they sat at the top. Mia floated somewhere in the middle like a porcelain doll, and I held up the whole damn structure with a quiet smile and an open checkbook. But not anymore. The next escalation came fast. On Thursday morning, I got a call from the property management office. A woman with a clipped voice told me the tenants, my parents, had missed their rent again. When she called to follow up, my dad told her I would handle it. His words. He was quite insistent, she added. He said you were the one financially responsible, that it was in your agreement. I was stunned for a second. I'd already filed the lease removal paperwork, hadn't I? Yes, I said. But I withdrew my name. You should have it on file. There was a pause. Paper rustled. Then, yes, we received it. But unfortunately, Mr. Saunders called this morning and told us you were rescinding that request. Said it was a family miscommunication. My stomach turned. That's a lie. I never rescinded anything. Silence again. Then she spoke carefully. Would you like me to flag the account for legal verification? Yes, I said immediately. Flag it. And please send me a copy of everything. My hands were shaking when I hung up. I didn't call them. I didn't yell. I didn't even text. I just opened a document and started typing a formal legal notice, stating that I was no longer financially liable, that my previous request was valid, and that any future attempts to speak on my behalf would be considered identity misrepresentation. And then I called my lawyer. Because apparently, that's where we were now. The next day, a process server arrived at their front door. I knew because I got the text. From Dad. Really, Jalen? A lawyer? That's how low you've sunk. And then, we're your family. You don't serve family papers. I didn't answer. Because that was the point. Family doesn't forge your name to cover rent. Family doesn't erase you from the events you paid for. Family doesn't belittle you when you finally say, enough. A few days later, Mia called again. Her voice was thinner this time. Less emotion, more exhaustion. They're calling everyone, she said. Cousins, family friends, even old neighbors. Saying you abandoned them. That you're unstable. That you're dangerous. Dangerous. I said, blinking. They said you're cutting them off to punish them. That you're trying to leave them homeless. I nearly laughed. The irony was dizzying. Did you defend me? I asked gently. There was a pause. Yes, but they're not listening. That night, I went through my photo albums. Not the digital kind, the old ones. Actual prints. Birthday parties. Christmas mornings. Barbecues. There I was in the background of every picture, always holding something. A bag. A tray. A chair. Always standing behind the main people. Behind Mia. Behind my parents. Never centered. Never celebrated. Just present. Just useful. And suddenly, I was angry. Not just at them. At me. For letting it go on this long. For thinking love was earned by how much I could carry. For mistaking proximity for connection. I got up and started packing. Not my entire apartment. Just the things I'd been meaning to take care of. I donated half the gifts they'd ever given me. The ones that came with gilt strings and birthday cards that said, from all of us. I boxed up the spare key to their house and slid it into a drawer. I deleted the shared calendar we used to plan family events. I was done. The final blow came 2 weeks later. A letter in the mail. A bill. $2,314. A hospital down payment Mia had made under the assumption I was helping with her delivery costs. My name wasn't on it. But the note attached read, we told them you were the one paying. Please don't make this harder than it already is. I stared at it for a long time. Then, without a word, I scanned it, forwarded it to my lawyer, and included a statement. Please include this in the harassment file. Later that night, Mia called one last time. This time she didn't start with pleasantries. They're losing it, she said. They're threatening to move in with me. I sighed. You still want them there? She paused. I thought I did. But after what I've seen, I don't know anymore. There was a beat of silence. Then I asked her something I hadn't before. Something that had been sitting quietly in the corner of my mind since this all started. Why'd you come to see me that day? She was quiet for a moment. Because I looked around the baby's shower, she finally said, and realized every beautiful thing in that room came from someone we weren't even willing to invite. I felt like I was living inside a lie you built, and I hated it. That hit me harder than I expected. Do you think they'll ever change? I asked. She didn't hesitate. No, but I might. And then she hung up. That was the last time we spoke for a while. Weeks passed. The bills stopped. The calls slowed. The noise died down. I didn't unblock them. I didn't rejoin the group chat. I didn't send a card when the baby was born. Not out of spite. Out of peace. I needed peace. I started walking more. Reading more. Cooking at home. My apartment felt lighter. Airier. And so did I. Then one morning, I checked the mail and found a small, plain envelope with no return address. Inside was a photo. Mia, holding a baby girl, sitting on a bench outside the hospital. No balloons. No crowd. No flashy poses. Just her, looking tired but real. On the back, in handwriting I recognized as hers, it said, "This time, we didn't pretend you weren't part of it. We just told her the truth. That she has an uncle who chose to stop giving everything. So he could finally have something for himself. No signature. No request. No apology. Just that." I smiled, folded it up, and slid it into the one drawer I hadn't cleared. Maybe one day I'd reach out. Maybe not. But this time, it'd be my choice. On my time. On my terms. Because I wasn't a wallet with legs anymore. I was finally just me.